It is another legal snag for a project that Austin voters approached almost 6 years ago. The legal saga over Project Connect in Austin returned to a Travis County courtroom today.
Yeah, voters approved the light rail project back in 2020. Our Daniel Perot spent the day at the Travis County Courthouse following the hearing on this. He's joining us now. And Daniel, it really focused on two main issues today, this hearing.
That's right. The hearing centered on two pleas for jurisdiction. One that concerned whether or not ATP, the Austin Transit Partnership, and the City of Austin can skip going to the Texas Attorney General's office to ask whether or not ATP has the authority to issue a bond and go to a court to do that instead. And the second part of the hearing focused on some of the concerns surrounding the property taxes which would fund Project Connect. In May, the Texas Supreme Court ruled that the district court erred by not previously ruling on the Attorney General's plea for jurisdiction and ordered the lower court to do so. The AG's office argues that the city and ATP should not be allowed to ask the court to let it issue the bonds because the Attorney General's office has jurisdiction over that process. So today, Elliot Clark, an attorney for ATP and the city, argued that the city is a municipality and it should be allowed to ask the court to let it issue bonds under those rules. Clark made the case that if the AG's office succeeded in its challenge, that it would allow one disgruntled taxpayer to prevent the future issuance of really any bond across Texas.
So, accepting their argument requires this court to accept the conclusion that a governmental unit by statute is not a type of governmental entity. That is an absurd conclusion to reach under the plain terms of the statute.
Judge Maria Cantu-Hexel denied both pleas to jurisdiction this afternoon. Bill Elshire, who represents a group of taxpayers who are currently suing, arguing that Austin leaders cannot use that tax to pay bond debt and say that voters never approved the current funding plan. He says he is pleased with today's outcome. He called it a victory for the taxpayers of Austin.
They can't have a commitment from the city of Austin that they're going to give all this money, which is what the ballot said, in perpetuity, unconditional, to ATP. That's an unconstitutional debt between the city and ATP. And that claim survived, as well as the claim that they can't use this Project Connect money for debt service, and they can't, wink, wink, give it to an entity they created that acts on their behalf and let them issue the bonds.
So essentially what happened today is Judge Hexel ruled that the city and ATP can proceed with the bond validation lawsuit, but she also rejected a challenge by the city and ATP to some of the claims made in Elshire's lawsuit. The AG's office and ATP have both filed accelerated appeals of the rulings today. That brings everything to a halt here at the courthouse as the appeal now plays out. Austin Transit Partnership leaders say that these lawsuits have not delayed the project. Pre-construction on it started in May, and they are still hopeful that early next year they will be able to break ground. In downtown Austin, Daniel Perot, KVUE News.